and that's after the presentation. So we'll do the presentations first, then we'll do the cards and the questions, sorry. Okay. So my first presentation here is on zoning. And the important thing is for everybody to understand some background. We're not starting from a blank slate on zoning. We're not starting from a blank slate. The context for Broadway, 2004 was a total rewrite of the whole Chicago zoning code for the whole city of Chicago. In 2006, people in Edgewater, under the leadership of Mary Ann Smith at the time, looked at this and did a community-wide review of Broadway zoning. In 2000, I will tell you what the outcome of that was. In 2022, Harry Osterman convened a visioning. It was not there were not zoning changes that came out of that, but some of the things that did come out of that, some goals of the community, were affordable family housing, adaptive reuse, avoid canyonization on the street, open space, and CTA development opportunities. Those were all things that came out of the 22 visioning. Also in 22, the city had been getting very interested in transit-oriented development, and they have a term they call TSL, transit-served locations, and in those locations they wanted to emphasize, that's when they were beginning through ordinances to start to emphasize density and parking reductions. That was with what they called a connected communities ordinance. Going back to 2006 with the Mary Ann Smith rezoning, and the community was deeply involved in that, they rezoned Broadway at the time as follows. The B3 that is now being proposed was downzoned to B1, a neighborhood shopping district. And they also, for height and density, they made it on the west side of Broadway that it would be no more than 50 feet tall, which is 4 stories, to complement shallower lots and the less dense housing west of Broadway. And on the east side of Broadway, it would be up to 7 stories. And actually at the time it was 5 or 6 stories, but with the city changes in the code, it now is up to 7 stories already on the east side of Broadway. It's true that the lots are deeper there. They're twice as big, 250 feet deep, and they also, of course, abut against the L rather than abutting against low-density residential.
Yeah, but next to the L, it's really hard to slate for a lot.
Okay, no comments, questions up with that. This regime has been in place for 20 years. And I've heard many, many comments that somehow this has squashed development, and that simply is not true. Development has been going pretty vigorously for the 20 years. We have increased density, there's increased housing, increases in commercial development, and all of it happening with community input. Over the last 20 years, there's been 22 new residential buildings, 22 buildings with 843 units. And in development, there's another 10 sites with almost 500 units. So in total, more than 1,300 units have been developed of residential housing, have been developed or are in development right now. Whoops, sorry. These are just some examples. There's many examples up and down the street. Just wanted to hit some of the buildings. You can see them every day. This is an interesting building, 11-story, 160 units. There was a 20% affordable, certainly lots of community input with that one. Here's a building, 6100 block of Broadway. This is a building that's gotten all its approvals in the 5600 block of Winthrop and Bryn Mawr. This is a building that many of you know about. It's a tax credit building that you'll hear more about here that is being developed by Bickerdike, 100% affordable. I believe it's 90 units. But in addition to the housing, there's many more pictures, and I have them all. There's been widespread commercial development as well. Nobody ever said that we wanted to make Broadway just for residential development. It was for also, and the commercial development, been related to community and culture, grocery and foods, restaurants, cafes, health, wellness, financial services, education, childcare, pet services, hardware and home supply. So we could think of all of these ourselves. So you could think of the examples, starting with the Edgewater Library came during this time, was part of the redevelopment. Whole Foods, Independent Spirits, there's the LA Fitness, there's the Lickety Split, but all kinds of restaurants and facilities that you can see, all of that has occurred. So anybody who says Broadway development is dead, isn't happening, that's far, far from true. DPD thinks their goals, if I were to say what their goals are, they state their goals. They say we want to improve neighborhood housing affordability. We want to support the local business environment. We want to create a more livable neighborhood. And we want to right-size the approval process. We all want to do those things, by the way. But they think the one answer to everything is density. They think density brings affordable housing. They think density makes a better business environment. Well, guys, we don't believe that, but it's not true. It's simply incorrect. It's a faulty.
If we were correct, we'd already have it.
All right, no, guys, keep it. Stop. Thank you. So the density is the one answer to everything. They want to upzone all of Broadway from Foster to Devon to this B3-5, which is the highest business zoning that you can have. One size fits all, no consideration for context, no differentiation of the east and west side of the street.
Yeah, but I live on the east side and you're going to be
Quietly. They want to remake.
Did you say it's going to die? Yeah. Are you going to be alive in 25 years?
Hey, wait, whoa, Pat. No, Pat.
Then don't confront me. Just come away.
All right, no. Let's have respect. Pat. Now, everybody please, I hope a respectful conversation that we have here. We do, and if anybody needs any assistance, we have a gentleman in the back, Roger, and Chris, can you raise your hands? I have not pointed this out, but that's security if anybody feels in danger of anything here or they need help. Okay, the DPD's goal is to completely remake Broadway. One of the things, I saw some people looking at this board in the back. I really want you to know, any site with 2 or fewer stories is considered underutilized and incompatible. And when you look at that map back there, you will see that's 80% of Broadway. They basically want to remake 80% of Broadway. So and basically the proposal is to line both sides of Broadway with 7 to 8 story buildings. They estimate, there's been independent estimates on this, that this could add 10,000 housing units to Edgewater. That 10,000 housing units, I want you to know, that's as many as all the housing units on Winthrop and Kenmore, all of them. or it's as many as all of the housing units on Sheridan Road. So it's a big deal, a big proposal they're making. They want to change both permitted uses and the height and density limits. The permitted uses, as Pat said, they want to go to a B3, and actually I've never heard anybody asking for this to be done at all, but for some reason there's 36 new uses that would be allowed, or special uses, including entertainment sports venues, gas stations, hotels, motels, etc.
They require a permit though. You just skipped over that. They require a permit.
Quiet.
They require a permit.
The height and density limits, I tried to give you a visual representation here, that basically now I will tell you, on the east side of Broadway, it already goes up to 80 feet, and they're not changing that. That would be the same. On the west side of Broadway, it goes to 50 feet, and they would move that to 80 feet as well. And the residential areas behind it are about 35 feet. More of a change would be in the number of units. The number of units in a typical lot on the east side there, the new -5 would go to 90 units, as opposed to right now, it could go to only 16 units on the west side of Broadway. So that's in the red, the number of units. So it's a big proposal. We think it can create a canyon of 7 to 8-story buildings. There's no consideration of context. And by the way, it will displace, they say it's good for business, it will displace local businesses and heritage buildings. It eliminates community input. And there's no identification at all of major redevelopment opportunities. By the way, speaking of major redevelopment opportunities, there's one that Pat talked about, the first one in our 5-point plan, is let's all get together and do something about this Bryn Mawr Hollywood Community Center. I've been asking the alderman since she came into office, let's get everybody together. Bryn Mawr, Hollywood, the Broadway, that whole area there, that's where the CTA construction staging has been. This could take, it's where the new L stations are. This could take a lot of density there. I've seen development proposals that estimate you could get 400 to 600 units right at that site. And I think it's ripe for big community consensus and community planning. Where's the plan for doing this? And by the way, the other thing is, it could not contradict, but it would complement the Bryn Mawr Historic District. As part of that, you can do this mixed-use, transit-oriented development and still save and preserve the buildings in the Bryn Mawr Historic
Most of the
District.
time, you're supposed to have
If you have a question,
or a comment, but we cannot get through this if we're going to have to debate every
All right,
person in this room.
so at any rate, if you have a question or comment, you can put it on your card. All right, now we're going to talk about the impact of this on affordable housing.